is it to preserve our debt capacity so we can utilize our GO funding for other capital needs? We didn't get too much in detail, but we will in the long-range financial planning that comes up at the end, further towards the end of the year.
Any other discussion?
Well, it will be the rate of, it would implement January 1st, 2017. It would be reflected in bills that would go out approximately February 20th. There would be an insert in the flyer that goes with the bill explaining the rate, also explaining the sewer rates, which are not going to change with the whole combined utility bill that they will be, the residents will be seeing. So it'll be explained. We did this last year, February 2015, when we had the sewer rate adjustments. So we are on track for our long-term plan on utilities.
There's one other thing in there. If you look at the chart, the resident, the homeowners actually get billed a higher percentage increase than commercial properties. And that's, I asked, is there a way to change that and to distribute it evenly? And the answer is the PSC, if I'm correct, does that distribution.
Well, the PSC presented a number of scenarios to see the impact of this new rate request compared to the existing one. And the metric with that is, you know, you've got a couple examples of residential, of small use, medium use, above average. We go through the same thing for public authority. We do the same thing for commercial, the same thing for multifamily. And the outcome of that is because the residential users use so little water, the fixed costs that have gone up represent a little higher portion of that than our commercial users who go through much more water. So when you convert that to a percentage, you know, it implies that the residential homeowner will take a 17 or 18% increase, and a big commercial customer would take 11 or 12%. But that's really a mathematical representation that based on the amount of water used for those customers. The fixed rate components of those areas are defined by the PSC based on infrastructure connecting to the service. Those are scaled. Water rates are uniform. And then it's just how you combine those two that they integrate to produce those different results.
Any other comments? Yes.
I just wanted, for the benefit of the public or who may be watching on video, that for the average residential, we're talking about an $11 per quarter increase, and I'm just taking this from Appendix D. Is that correct, Mark?
I believe the reference,
about $44 a year.
the reference for, was it 19
This is
units of
average.
water
Yeah.
is about $44 a year. I think that's a little higher than our actual average customer. It's just how the PSC administers that. So, but yeah, that's about the impact, somewhere between $8 and $10 for a quarter for what we would consider a typical or average single family dwelling.
I mean, as we know, water infrastructure is very expensive. We just replaced that main, it's probably 2 blocks on Menlo. I think it was $225,000, $250,000. I mean, I can remember when we were replacing large valves along Oakland Avenue.
Right.
Each valve was like $40,000. And the downer water pit, I mean, this infrastructure is very expensive. We got 90 to 100-year-old infrastructure. It's part of living in a village. I mean, this is an older community.
Well, and to know, as I think Marcy had said, we're just at the moment, until we can build up our cash reserves, we're just doing a very basic water main replacement. So every 2 years, our rates are going to increase by the same amount. That's what we're forecasting. And then we're going to take on, at some point, a more aggressive, so that might compete with other infrastructure priorities. But I think, did you mention that maybe DPW is crafting some sort of draft?
Well, when we were talking about main replacements, our current practices have been to look at the mains that are underneath roadway surfaces that are being removed during reconstruction of the roads program. Extremely cost effective if you're gonna go after a main, to go after it with the roads removed. But then there are also a certain list of main sections that DPW has identified as having above average frequency of main breaks or clusters of main breaks that they want to stay on top of a little more proactively than just waiting for their turn to come around in the roads program. We can, with that being said, I think as the next round of road programs get developed for resurfacing, those same concepts will be looked at as far as, you know, what can we tackle when we're resurfacing a road? What are the, you know, identified priorities for main sections that we think are at high risk and should need attention that may be outside of those parameters? And I think that'll be forthcoming from Public Works. Is that the 17 project or is that really more of an 18 project?
Probably for the 18. It should be mentioned that one of the things that the board can do to reduce, and I say this every year in the long-range financial plan, the thing you can do every year to not increase rates is do what we did from 1940 to 2002 or 2006 and do nothing. We had the lowest rates. If you were some of you heard my history before, we had the lowest rates until 2007. It's because we didn't do any water projects. We did very minimal, so hardly any. So there's other priorities, I'm sure. But the point is, one of our public works director, when they had got on board, she says, we have an infrastructure. And if you remember, Paul, you were on the school board when we had a gate valve that couldn't move, and when the school had to put a new main or new lateral to the school. So we really woke up and started doing a lot of projects, even though it is a slow pace, not as much as Mark wants as a PSC, but and that is the problem, it's an issue. I mean, you can either kick the can, just like we're talking about at the federal level right now, and I mean, we as staff just recommend things. You can reduce, or not reduce rates, but you can make them go slower by kicking into the next generation. And that's an option that you should consider every year. Just saying.
Mark, can you remind me again, we invoice users based on meter readings, and we pay Milwaukee based on...
Well,
We've got Milwaukee.
for water services, which is the topic, is we pay Milwaukee for the water that comes in through the main pipes.
The mains that come in from the
The
Milwaukee
big
Water
mains.
have got meters on
They
them,
do.
and that's what we charge. Do we know what the delta is between what we buy and
We
what
get
we
an
sell?
idea of our losses.
Yeah, it's 85% is what we bill out, at least in the last year and a half to 2 years.
You know, and it's,
Which-
you know, when we talk about, we could choose to keep the rates down by not doing projects. I mean, we're buying water that we're not getting, you know, we're pouring water in the ground literally that
But that's
we
it,
want.
we're doing better.
We are doing better.
Because
But
of
I
all
get to
the
100%.
But we're never gonna get to 100%, but 85% is a bit low, particularly when we, and to compound that, when we think about the combined sewer area, those same sewers leak. So we buy water that comes down the pipe, that leaks out of the pipe, and then goes into the sewer, and we pay for it again, never having generated any revenue. That's all my way of saying investing in infrastructure is something we have to do. So I appreciate the comments that we've got an option for keeping costs down, but we really don't, from my perspective.
I don't know, I think I agree that we need to fund infrastructure. I was just merely wanting to point out to the public what the cost has been, and I wasn't saying let's not do this, I just think people deserve to know what it is we're voting on.
Yeah, my comment was in response to that, which is simply that we need to keep going.
Just you hear the rate increase and it's like, oh, that seems like a lot, but our costs are a lot.
Okay, time to call the question. Your roll call vote?
Trustee Menta.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Aye.
Trustee Maher.
Aye.
Trustee McKay.
Aye.
Trustee Rozick.
Aye.
Trustee Zelbeck.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
Vote is 7-0.
Okay. That takes us to reports from village officials. I have none. Trustees?
I'd like to say from JP&L, we started with 25 vacancies on boards and commissions. We're down to 4, so thank you for all the hard work of interviewing. We had a top talent pool of candidates. We do have 3 spots on the board of review that we're going to be recruiting for. We might have 1 or 2 that are interested, but somebody withdrew. Anyway, we're going to put out a call for interested residents who would like to serve on the board of review, but I just wanted to put that announcement out there. And I'll also announce that I look forward to being on the ballot in April for a re-election to the village board. I submitted all my paperwork and signatures and was inspired by Trustee Maher, who got them in even before me. So thank you.
Any other trustee reports? Yes, sir.
It's both a report and an item for future, but I'm going to both together. The Wilson Drive Community Task Force Steering Committee met probably will have been its final meeting last week. Their work is done. They're in the process of putting together their deliverable. They will present to the Strategic Initiatives Committee, at which time we'll also ask for additional information and response from staff. And then once we receive that report, it will come to the full board hopefully we can do that the second meeting in January. Have them come to the full board with their report, and we can probably take some action at that point. So the future item is for that second January meeting for us to have a report from the first meeting. It'll be a committee. Second meeting will be
Any other reports?
I and a couple of other individuals here, the village manager, trustee McKay, and I think trustee Ameta, were at the Public Policy Forum's Viewpoint Luncheon discussing state and local government relations in Wisconsin. It was informative and kind of bleak at the same time. But on that, I have reached out to some of our local and regional elected officials to see if we can better our relationships with our village and our state alike. So I'll give you maybe more information, more in the form of a report format in the next couple of meetings.
Thank you. Any other reports? Village manager?
Oh. I have questions.
No? Then I'll look at there. Items for future consideration?
Oh, go ahead.
I saw where the city of Milwaukee is working on their laterals. It appeared they have some sources of grant funding coming in. We could do some research on what grant funding they're securing. I noticed they were using property taxes to do that part that's the private laterals. Some further analysis on
We'll start through DPW.
Sure.
Any other items for future? Yes.
2 just follow-ups. I don't know if they need to go on the agenda, but I am, if we could get that agenda items requested report in our packet or, at the meetings. I remember we started one, but I don't remember where it went. So that would be my one request. And the other is for marketing for 2016
remember, but we can talk, I'm sure.
Okay.
It's not, well, I apologize.
That's okay, I asked it, I asked it multiple people, it's just that there was a report, like an annual report or something that showed all the initiatives from all three agencies, and I asked just could you total? up
Oh,
the
yeah,
cost?
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
I thought you were talking about
So if you
the
could just follow up with
contract.
that as the year ends, that would be
Of course.
perfect.
Good idea.
And then for a future agenda item, I wanted to suggest that we look at a new initiative, maybe for strategic initiatives once Wilson Drive ends. And one of the ideas was looking at consolidation efforts or cross-purchasing efforts, or I guess that's called, it's working to purchase and to, what are our options as we move into the next long-term